Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been little bit of time since I made a video. I took a little bit of time off last week and got a chance to do a little bit of relaxing, but I'm back and ready to get right back into it. If you saw the title of the video, they want to work us to death. Now, I know that that sounds nice and depressing, but I promise you, we're going to dive into some potential solutions, things that maybe some of you have implemented to try and prepare yourself for retirement. And I'm going to discuss in a little bit of detail what I did to prepare myself, what I did to lower my debts and other things. I am by no means somebody who has completely solved the problem and certainly not an expert on it, but I can give you a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, a little bit of advice on what I did, and perhaps you'll find that advice useful. So, anyway, to dive right into it, some of the numbers these days that are coming out that are talking about retirement, obviously, for those of you here in the United States, we are aware that, well, Social Security is pretty much a Ponzi scheme. It is something that the government is regularly dipping into. At a certain point, it's going to get to a point where it is not something that you'll be able to really rely on for retirement. And that is not a political statement of any sort. It's just, let's be realistic here. It's not going to be around for most of us, something that you can't really count on. And for most people, if you've looked into anything with 401ks and most people's retirement funds, a lot of people have, give or take, if you look at the numbers, between 80,000 to 120,000 in their 401ks as far as retirement goes. Well, campers, I got news for you. That is not enough really to retire, which that is not a knock against those of you that have any money put away or that amount or even greater amounts. But it's really addressing the reality that for those of us that want to make it into the future and have something that is some form, some semblance of a comfortable lifestyle where we get some kind of say so in our lives, one thing is abundantly clear: relying on the job situation here in the United States is something you really can't do. You have to try to find your own way to make your own money on the side, maybe start a business, do whatever you can. And when it comes to retirement, one of the biggest factors I've noticed that has been a huge deal for most people has really been just finding a way to reduce your overall debt, finding a way to reduce your cost of living, finding a way to simplify things, and finding a way to do as much unplugging as you possibly can from society. Now, when I say unplugged, we have to be realistic here. No matter where or how you unplug, you're going to have to live in a country somewhere. You're going to have to live someplace with statutes and ordinances when it comes to what you can do as far as your living situation. But it depends on, to some degree, like what state, what province, what area, what township that you live in, that's going to determine what you're going to be able to do with the land that you either get a hold of or make an arrangement with somebody financially or otherwise to try to, when I say otherwise, that really doesn't sound very good, does it? But whatever you have to do to get a hold of land, because if you start from there, that's really the only place you can start. I mean, if you don't have a place to put an affordable house, you really haven't even begun the journey. So if you're going to look at it from the viewpoint of attempting to reduce your debt, and you're going to look at it from the viewpoint of trying to find a way to simplify your living situation, you have to have a much more affordable house. You can't be having mortgages all the way up the wazoo, and you have to figure out a way around that. Now, I realize for some of you, maybe you got a mortgage completely paid off. Maybe you're in a living situation where you don't have to worry about that. You know, I can't speak to everybody's situation. I'm going to throw some ideas out there, things that will work for you potentially. I want you to grab them and take them and run with them. If it's not something that's going to particularly work for you, you don't have to complain about in the comments. Just take a pass on it and grab something else that does work for you. You know, we're all adults here. We can be reasonable, hopefully. So let's go ahead with that. And I'm going to do this kind of from my point of view, because I've had a lot of people asking me about, okay, Steve, you ended up building a cabin. You moved from a bigger place and now you're in a cabin. You don't owe any money on it. How in the world did you do that? I made an arrangement with somebody, a relative of mine, where there was land that wasn't even being used, and I made a financial arrangement with them at a decent deal, but it was before COVID. So that helped a little bit. And I made an arrangement to basically purchase the land. And from there, because of the where the land is located and it's rural, that changes the zoning and allowed me to have a much more flexible way when it came to building. There are a lot of states. I know that Idaho is one of them, and several other states here in the United States. I can't speak for other countries, but you'd have to research your particular state, your particular province, and figure out what works best for you, what is available to you, and what their regulations, what their laws are concerning that, what their zoning laws are concerning attempting to get a home, built somewhere where you have basically control of that land, and they're not going to be coming in at every turn telling you what you can and can't do. That way you can find a way to build something inexpensively, cheaply, that you can easily maintain, and you don't end up owing huge amounts of debt going down the road. So you get to keep much more of what you make. So to go from there, to give you some insight, I ended up, there was already a well sunk on the property. So that's where my water comes from. So thankfully, I didn't have to worry about that. For some of you, you're going to have to figure out a way to either do a rainwater catchment system or something like that. And this is assuming you want to go full on as unplugged as you possibly can go. Now, none of us are going to be able to fully unplug because obviously there will be laws and ordinances and other things that, local authorities are going to enforce on you no matter what. So you have to really, really look into wherever you might be looking to do this. For me, I was able to figure out a way to do an independent solar powered system that does not plug back into the grid, although I do have to have lines connecting me to the grid, and I pretty much don't even use those, almost at all. So I got my solar powered system. I don't actually have a link to give you. I tried to look it up from where I had originally purchased it, and unfortunately, you can't purchase it there, so I can't really post that link. But I can give you the name. The company's name is Renogy, Renogy. And Renogy had a really, really great deal on multiple different sizes of solar panels, and there was ways to get a hold of the wiring, the batteries, pretty much everything that you're going to need. And I'm not going to run you through everything that is needed for a solar powered kit, but you can make one everything from a 12 volt all the way up to a 48 volt. And, you know, pretty much power just about anything that you could possibly imagine. Some states allow for you to do things off grid or basically in a homestead. They have homesteading laws that will allow you to do that. And the reason why I'm kind of diving into all of this and really pushing it is, well, first of all, I'm kind of giving you the experience from my point of view, how I ended up getting around a lot of this and, just cutting my expenses like crazy because I just began to notice that I really wanted to be able to live my life and not get to a point where I'm 65, 70, 80 years old, if I even live that long, and not have been able to do anything at all because I was literally ending up as a wage slave and being worked to death, which is what I've begun to notice seems to be the direction that everything's going with most Americans and a lot of people in the Western world. So this is all about figuring out a way around just being worked to death. Now, I realize a lot of the things that I'm saying to some of you is just not financially feasible. Like you have to be able to find a way to start smaller. And there are possibilities like finding a way to either rent a home, an apartment, or anything with multiple different people, get roommates. Find a way to move in with somebody that in a way that would allow you to cut back on your costs and save money. Because the simple truth of the matter is, without Social Security, you're going to need a whole lot of money. If you have not saved up and you have not reduced your bills, you're going to need a whole lot of money just to survive. When we were talking, based upon some estimates in some parts of the country, anywhere from $10,000 to $14,000 every single month just to survive in the future, and that's until you die. I don't know how many of you have that type of money just flowing in, guaranteed all the time. But for a lot of people, that's going to be a bit on the difficult side. And One of the major ways that you can contend with that is to simply lower your monthly cost and find ways to cut corners to do it. So, getting roommates is one way that I've heard a lot of people will do that, or they'll get a hold of a place and they'll bring in a bunch of roommates, or maybe they've got a way to everything from extra bedrooms to an extra couch. Now, obviously, you have to be pretty choosy about who you're going to bring in and who you're going to have sharing space with you. You have to make sure that you're not going to end up at odds with each other constantly. But if everybody's operating from the same understanding of you're trying to find a way to preserve things for your future, you might be able to put something together like that. There's a number of other ways to approach this and to tackle it, but really, when it comes down to it, you have to just keep in mind your ultimate goal. You're trying to buy back your time. You're trying to buy back your freedom. You're trying to buy back your financial freedom for the future by not owing a whole bunch of money. And I'm going to tell you right now, one of the best ways that you can approach this also is to not bring this up to family members and friends unless you absolutely have to, or unless you're fairly sure they're on board with what you might have in mind. Because a lot of people are going to try and shoot it down. They're going to try and redirect you right back into the system. They're not even aware that everything's falling apart. Our economy is in shambles. And I mean, let's be realistic here. The price of houses is not going to ever really fall back to something affordable, because we're talking about homes that used to be back in the 1990s or so. Some of the older homes that might have gone for $120,000 that are now $650,000. Think about that for a minute. Nowhere really in history has the price of homes gone up quite that much, and everything has gone up. So we're talking about groceries. We're talking about all sorts of other items that you're going to need to live. The cost of that has gone up, and most people's pay has not gone up by maybe 14 to 18%. And that's being a little bit generous in some areas. Most people are making far less. So we're talking about ideas. They're going to allow you to help escape all of this, and you're not going to be stuck in that work to death cycle where you literally have nothing left at the end of the day. You can't take a weekend off and go and enjoy yourself. You have no money left, and you have no future, and have no retirement. So I mean, this is really about addressing all of that. How do you get around that, especially if you're somebody who isn't making very much? Because I've had people come back and say to me, well, Steve, what if I don't have any money to put down on a piece of property? What if I can't, what if I have a relative or a friend or somebody who has some property that's maybe in a rural area, but I can't possibly put down enough money to get things started? Maybe you can make an arrangement with them to pay over time. It's worth giving it a shot. You're going to have to learn how to step out of your box and communicate with people and try to find ways to solve problems so that you can get onto land like that, or get into a living situation where you can shrink and reduce your debt. Now, I'm not personally going to advocate for somebody, say, living in their vehicle or living in a car, but there are people even doing that, just even for a period of time until they get back onto their feet, or they have enough money saved up and they get themselves into a living situation that is amenable, that's affordable. Because when it comes down to it, we're all in this together. We're all trapped in the same economy to a certain degree. Even if one of us is making significantly more than the other, at some point might be enough an economic change in the negative to where that might negate any change. You might get to a point to where that's really not gonna help you down the road. So these are things definitely consider. And I just got to throw my 2 cents in out there and just kind of explain how I did that. A lot of my lighting on the exterior of my home is from solar lights that actually just charge up during the day. You can buy them at Home Depot. And so that just lights up pretty much once the sun goes down. And usually they're off by around midnight. I have backup lights that I can turn on at any point that are plugged into my battery packs, and they draw power directly from the converter. And floodlights if I need them, anything, pretty much anything that I need at my fingertips. And it's actually not very hard to set up, but there are people that actually put together solar powered systems that one guy is a young man who used to be a gymnast, if I recall, and used to do all sorts of other work before he eventually got to a point to where he started teaching people online how to put together independent solar powered systems. And this is just so that you have control over your own electricity and you're not paying an electricity bill every month. And just to give you an idea, like a 100-watt panel used to be about $105. And I think 200-watt was about 170. And that can generate quite a bit of electricity. You get about 8 or 9 of those panels, 10 of those panels put together. You can run quite a bit. Now you wouldn't be able to per se run your heating off of that, or per se a air conditioner off of that. But if you keep growing the system a little bit bigger, you'll have enough excess energy to pretty much run things almost indefinitely if you ever wanted to. I wouldn't recommend that, but you could have full control over your electricity. You could have full control over the water pumps that bring your water into your house, over your water purification system, over pretty much anything. Now, I realize as I'm telling you all this, some of you are still going to be like, Steve, that's just very, very extreme. Why in the world would I want to get that extreme? A lot of it is based on your independence and how independent you want to be of the system. Do you want to be a wage slave for the rest of your life? So there's a number of different ideas that I've thrown out here, and I'm not really going to push or advocate for anything. And I definitely want people to drop uh, some of their ideas, suggestions, and other things into the comments, and let's keep the conversation going and talk about this. Um, this is pretty much becoming a major, major issue for a lot of people, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. So, um, at any rate, I know that that sounded like kind of a bummer, but I like to try and throw solutions in whenever we're bringing up really hard subjects like this. And I know some of you are pretty much coming to this channel because you want to hear more about relationship talk and other stuff. We will be touching on some of those subjects coming up again soon. So, and as always, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell because I got a lot more videos coming your way soon. And if you want to reach out to me directly, and I'm just going to give you a heads up, I'm getting inundated with emails at this particular email address. But if you do want to reach out to me directly and there's a story you want me to cover, um, or there's a story of yours that you would like me to mention in one of the upcoming videos, maybe cover through most of the video, everything from relationships to financial stuff like we've been talking about tonight. My email is stevejamschannel@gmail.com. So if you do happen to email me, just keep in mind it's going to take me a little bit of time to get through it because I do have quite a few that are coming in. But still the same, love to hear from you. And also give us a comment below and tell us about your experiences and tell me about what's going on in your life and how you're dealing with your situation when it comes to finances and planning out your retirement and what you're planning to do to cut back on your debt. I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Have a great night.